Hello and welcome to Get Into Games on Air, a podcast about board games and the people who play them. My name's Craig, also known as Get Into Games on Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, and here on Get Into Games on Air, a podcast about board games and the people who play them. And joining me, as ever, is my co-host, and wife lady, Rebecca.
Hello.
Also known as Mrs. Get Into Games.
Only on Instagram.
Only on Instagram. Not on other platforms. We've had a discussion. I'm also Get Into Games on bga.com. But you are not.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
Have we had a discussion about that?
No. I did today with someone else, but not with you. Because I couldn't find you to add you.
Oh, who was trying to find me?
Dale!
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You have to shout his name
did
really
have
loudly.
to shout really loud.
Very.
That's what everyone will get. There'll be
there.
cars. Welcome to episode 16. That's 1 and a 6.
That's how numbers work.
16, that's how they work. It was 15 last time, it's 16 today. Welcome to the episode. Today's episode is all about Wolfgang warsch. Something that I normally would finish an episode with a poll that was, what's your favourite Wolfgang warsch board game? And everyone either said one of two things. One of them was the Quacks of Quedlingburg.
Very good game.
And the other one was, who is Wolfgang warsch?
Oh.
So
that surprises me because I reckon once we talk about his games, I'll be like, "Oh, okay."
I feel like he is one of the best designers of the board games. Generally speaking, I really enjoy his games.
He's got quite a range of games as well. I would say
a huge range of variety of style of game. Yeah. It's not like he has a particular wheelhouse like a lot of designers. There's like just anything. We'll get into that, but yeah. So that's what today's episode is about. And as always, we are sponsored by Rent, Shuffle and Roll. Head to rentshuffleandroll.co.uk like our good friend Chelsea did and use the code GITG50 to get 50% off your first month. That is Chelsea from Board Games After Dark, of course. As you all know, as you're all fans of her. Just like we are huge in Russia.
Oh.
We have a huge following. Apparently, we are lovely hosts. Lovely hosts. And we're wonderful on the socials too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a little in-joke for the people. If you know...
Oh, the bots.
You know.
The bots.
Transformers. Listeners in disguise. Now...
Quite literally.
Ladies and gentlemen. So as always in an episode, this has been an intro.
It's taken you 3 minutes to get to the point where we're going to
Jinkies.
talk about something.
Gosh, I feel like sorry. As always, we're going to talk about what's hit our table this week, what we've played, what we've enjoyed, what we might not have enjoyed, but I think we've enjoyed most things that we've played, which is good. What we've got, what's new to the collection, that kind of thing. Then we're going to go through Wolfgang warsch's games, and we're going to finish with probably a big review, a more in-depth review of a game that we have just had into the Get Into Games studio, as it's lovingly referred to as, the kitchen. Quacks of Quedlingburg, the Duel, the 2-player version. But we'll get into that towards the end of the podcast. So... what have we been playing? What have we done? What's happened this last week?
We played a lot of games of Blood on the Clock Tower on Monday.
We did. There were lots of Teensy-villes, so lots of blinds.
So we played 4 games of that.
Okay.
We played a game of Sky Team.
We did. We're loving Sky Team at the moment.
We got a new game called Kabuto Sumo.
Kabuto Sumo! It's so much fun.
For anybody who doesn't know, it consists of basically pushing on to a circular log pieces of circles. Well, I've been circles,
Yeah.
and trying to push
Other
your
beetle.
opponent off of the
Yeah.
board.
If you are a UK listener, it'll be very much similar to Tipping Point. We wish we could have a little Ben Shepherd sitting ringside. Would be lovely. But also it's like those 2p machines you get at the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have been playing a few games of Dog Park and Dog Park New Tricks, which is also new to us.
Yes. Dog Park New Tricks has just actually launched today as of recording. That is the Monday, the 22 of this month.
The 22nd.
Yes, the 22nd.
The 22nd.
Yeah, the 22nd of April. That's just launched, and I would highly recommend. Spoilers for the review. Highly recommend you add.
Well, we're not going to review it now.
New tricks.
I think it definitely needs new tricks in order for it to be strategic.
It makes it more gamer's game, I feel.
It does. We played Quacks, the Duel, which we will talk about later. We played a couple of games of Dodo and Pika Mouse. And that was pretty much it, because you have been working lots.
Yes, we did also with to mention with Kabuto Sumo, we did get all the expansions for it.
We did.
So we got the All Stars, which makes like pro wrestling style events, a Money in the Bank match, and a ladder match, and a tables match, and a concerto match, and thumbtacks, and all sorts. And you get the extra characters, which are all loosely based on the world of professional wrestling.
What was I? I was the composter.
You were the composter. You had a really cool ability.
So you get 5, what can only be described as triangular, like, I would say like boomerang-shaped pieces.
Yeah.
And I could pay 5 pieces to my opponent, which happened to be you.
Me.
No, it wasn't 5. Yeah, 5
you can
circles.
Pay up to, yeah.
And then I can put these boomerang-shaped pieces on. But what it does is it kind of gets in its jaws, the bigger pieces, which means that you can push more pieces off of the circular tree.
And I was a big dung beetle, and I pushed a massive poo onto the log.
There's not really any more to say about that, really, is there?
But it's good fun. I do enjoy it. It's silly fun. It's not like the most taxing abstract strategy game. There are better abstract strategy games that make you think
it's
more.
Not really it's not abstract strategy at all. It's dexterity game.
It is abstract strategy because you have to think, where am I going to push to get either knock wood off so I can get extra stuff.
It's more dexterity.
It's more dexterity, yeah, especially when you're standing on one foot.
That must have just been you in your practice.
Yeah, that's true. Why was I standing on one foot? That made no sense.
No, it's good. And I like the ways you can play it in different ways. So we played a chair match.
Yep. Money in the Bank was fun, where you've got to knock the briefcase off rather than each other. You can still knock each other off.
And we played a tables match, which was surprisingly harder than I thought, because when you stood up the table, it seemed like as soon as you pushed a couple of pieces on, the table would collapse. But it did last longer than I expected.
Yep,
but
definitely.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a week of good new games to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We also got the expansion to Distilled. We haven't played with it yet, but the Africa expansion to that, which I'm looking forward to doing and getting on with. So, who is Wolfgang Warsch?
It's very little information on the websites about who he was, but I did happen across Board Game Review UK's website, where he has done an overview of some of Wolfgang Warsch's games, and in the beginning he mentions that he's an Austrian board game designer, and when he's not designing games, he is a molecular biologist in Vienna.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently he always loved playing party games, and his first game was Dream Team, which was published in 2015. So he's been making games now for about 9 years.
Yeah. So it's he's had a good run, and there's some really good games. And one of the reasons we decided on this episode was evidently we received, as we mentioned, Quacks of Quedlingburg, the Duel, in the post from the lovely folks over at Cold Springs, UK. So thank you very much for that. But one of his games, Taverns of Tiefenthal, was always top of my lists. It's been top of my list for a long time. I've always enjoyed that game, mainly because of its ability to be modular. There's loads of things you can throw into the game. And I really enjoy the fact that you can adapt his games and play with parts of the game, and then you can take out bits. And it's modular. As I said, it's really replayable because of that.
Yeah, so Taverns of Tiefenthal is a dice drafting deck building game.
Yeah.
You roll dice onto your beer mat.
Yeah.
And then you can place the dice out in your tavern, thus doing actions.
Yeah, so you'll take, I'll take a dice off of my coaster, then someone will swap coasters essentially. I take off a dice off of yours, then you take a dice of that, vice versa, so on and so forth. And then that ends, and then you can place the dice on your customers, because all your different customers have different values on them, and different things in your pub has a different value on it. So to brewing beer, to gaining money, to serving customers, and using special abilities.
When you gain money, you can upgrade your book. So the way your player map is set out, there are sort of inserts.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle, isn't it? In a way.
And what this means is that once you buy an upgrade, you flip over the bit that you've inserted into the player board, and it looks a little bit different on the rear side. And shows you the new amounts and the new costs for things.
Yeah, and then if you want to add extra layers to the game, it adds like schnapps, and it adds performers into the pub, and it also adds a bar keep that you have to do a sign and guest book for.
Yeah, there is the Open Doors expansion, which adds rooms and adds a mayor as well.
Yeah, wine. It's a wine cellar as well, I think.
Yeah,
it's wine. So you've got beer, you've got wine.
But like you said, you don't have to add all those modules at once. You can play with some modules, take some modules out. You can choose your favourite modules, which I always quite like in a game, because you can just pick the best bits.
Yeah, it was, and that's the reason. It was my number one game for ages, just because I really enjoyed that kind of challenge of being able to do different things and try and improve. And there's there's so many cards, you don't ever go through all the cards in a game. Yes, it's really nice, and I really like how it looks. I think design wise, I know some people have not huge fans of the artwork, but I really like it. I think it's got that nice kind of homely German pub feel to it.
It's very thematic.
Yeah, absolutely. And his other big box board game, which is probably equally as or more so popular, I would say, in the grand scheme of things, is Quacks of Quedlingburg. Quacks of Quedlingburg is great. Again, it's got that module ability. You can flip the cauldron over, and you've got two different ways to play it. And it is the ultimate push your luck game. If someone says, "What's your favourite push your luck board game?" Quacks of Quedlingburg is. It's always people's number one choice. I think actually Jamie Stegmaier's number one game a lot of the time.
So in Quacks of Quedlingburg, you have ingredients in your bag that you're putting into your potion, and you're trying to make a good potion but not have it explode. If you get 7... I think it's the white.
It's 7 cost of the
is
white.
It snowberries.
It's not snowberries, and it's
and that's in it.
Popping something. Yeah.
Whatever the white token is, if you get 7 of them, or over 7 of them, then your potion explodes, and you get less benefits in the end of round game, and then once you
choose to stop.
So you get money, and then you have to buy new ingredients, so you can choose a different coloured ingredients or different types of ingredients, do different actions when you pull them out the bag, and
and I think that's where the strategy lies. Like, there's a huge amount of luck, evidently, when you're bag building and you're pushing your luck to pull stuff out of a bag. It's all luck, but the strategy really lies in what ingredients you're going to buy to add to your pot and what those ingredients do. And again, there's 4 different versions of each ingredient. There's 4 different abilities for each ingredient.
Yeah, I don't think we've even touched the surface of the ingredient cards, because we tend to play always with the base ones.
Yeah.
We don't often mix, because we don't play it loads, but when we do play it, we like to play with the familiar.
And sometimes we play with our daughter, so it makes it.
But there's loads of different combinations you can do, so that doesn't always make it interesting. And then we have Quacks of Quedlingburg Dash, which is the children's version of Quacks, which is like a race game, and you're pulling out. Is it ingredients?
Fruit, like you're giving food to the animals to make them run,
to make them go faster up the track.
Yeah.
And that's quite good for
you take turns and they move around, and there's different spaces that you land on, and if you land on certain spaces you get to double the effect of what you've just pulled. It's really good fun, and it's really good for kids because the meeples are really cute. You've got like a little donkey and a little pig and a little cow and a sheep, I think it is, that you're racing up to the top. The board is double-sided, so you've got a short race and a long race, so depending on how much patience your kids have got for...
But that's the same with Quacks of Quedlingburg, because the player boards are double-sided as well.
Yep, absolutely.
There's 2 ways you can play it, which again, I don't think we've touched the surface.
Yeah. In Quedlingburg Dash, also the ingredients are double-sided as well, so you could one game the carrot does this action, the next one the carrot does something else, and I think it's a really good addition to get children used to the bag building and the pulling. And there's a bit of fun for adults as well, but it definitely is catered more towards a younger audience.
So they're kind of the games that we got where we first sort of realised who Wolfgang warsch was. Yeah,
we got taverns first, and then we got Quacks later. But and
now we have the insert for Quacks as well, so that makes it much easier to get out, and it's pretty on the board. And which insert?
We have a Laser Rocks insert,
but you can stand the recipe cards up now into the tray, so it looks really
so
cool.
we've got the wooden insert for that, and also that's one thing I will say, like, we've even got an insert for taverns. We've got the folded space one, because those games are good, but the fact they don't have inserts makes them just essentially component soup in the box.
There's a lot of components,
a lot of baggies and lots of chits, lots of things. So hugely recommending folded space or Laser Rocks for inserts, just because I think you're gonna need them. But
shall we save Quacks the Duel to the end?
Yes, definitely.
So some other games that people might not be familiar are with, that they're Wolfgang warsch, because they're quite different to those 2 games.
Well, I think that's the thing, like we said earlier, like, his games are so dramatically different.
So one that was, I don't know, maybe a year ago was quite at the forefront of Instagram. I was seeing it everywhere. Is the Fuzzies.
Yes, the Fuzzies is, last year, very big. It was those little pom-pom kind of things that you get in a craft shop, and you have to stick them together, and you get
balls. They're called.
Yep, you get.
It's a game about creating gravity-defying towers out of fuzzy little balls.
Yeah.
So you draw a card and remove that colour of fuzzy using either tweezers or your fingers, but you cannot get out of your seat, and then you have to stick it anywhere higher on the tower. And obviously you're trying to not knock over the tower.
Exactly. It's quiet Jenga, so it's everybody's dream.
But you wouldn't think that was Wolfgang Warsch if you played his up.
Not
if
at
you
all.
played Quacks or you played...
Not at all. It's a fun little game. I found that if the fuzzy balls got a bit dusty, that was the issue. Then they lose a bit of their stickiness. You can just push them down, and they do have an effect. But there is that risk that the fuzzy balls will lose their fuzz.
And then we have... what would you call it? It's like a Roland.
It is a Roland right. It's a Roland right, yeah.
Called Ganchon Clever.
Yep.
Now, there's lots of these clever games. So he's made Clever Forever, Clever Cubed.
Twice as clever.
Yeah. So we've got Ganchon Clever, which is the adult version.
Yeah.
Where you're drafting dice to tick off things on your sheet.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can make quite nice combos.
Really good combos, yeah.
You take dice, and then I think any that are left over, your opponent gets to.
Yeah, 100%.
Choose.
That's it. Yeah, you take the dice that you want. Your opponents get to choose the dice as well to take. For me, it's if you are not like we late came into roll and writes in general. We didn't have any. The only roll and write we ever had was Yahtzee. So.
That's a roll and write, isn't it?
That's because you roll and write, yeah. It's good, isn't it?
I never thought of that.
But this Ganchon Clever just feels to me like Yahtzee, but gamer Yahtzee. And I would honestly, if you are new to the hobby or new to roll and writes in general, and the only roll and write you are used to is Yahtzee, Ganchon Clever, I would just immediately step to. Because I think it's the perfect step into roll and writes and that kind of thing.
It's quite good if you want to take small box games somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes with its pens. It comes with everything you need in the box. So ideal. And it's a huge thick pad of pages, so you never have to worry about burning through them all.
Yeah. And then we have a children's version called That's Pretty Clever Kids.
Yep.
And our kids absolutely love it. So essentially you are at a birthday party and you are rolling dice to tick off all the things you need for the birthday party, like presents and balloons and cake
and candles.
That's it. And you roll the dice and you can take any from the same section. So if you rolled 3 dice with candles on, you could take all the candles, and then you leave behind what's
the last
left
2 dice
for the other players. And the kids just love it and we've played it. I mean, I think Corday played it since she was about 2, 3.
Yeah,
it's really easy for them to pick up.
Yeah,
they can get quite strategic now, and they love the combos. So there are certain balloons and presents that have a coloured circle. And they know that if they cross off that, then they can do one of that colour, as well as their original turn. And so you'll get, a 4-year-old going, "Oh my gosh, I got to do 3 things."
So they can cross off a candle, which crosses off a red, which means then you can go to the red section, which I think is the candle is the red section. But never mind, you can go to the green section, cross off that, and then you go, "Oh, I can now, because I've done that one, I can cross off a blue section." You go over to the blue section, you cross off that. So it's really satisfying combos, and it's really cool to see the kids be able to do one thing, and then suddenly it's like, "Whoa, I can do all of this stuff." But that's a really good, again, perfect roll and write for kids. Perfect game.
And then he changes tact again. I don't know what order these in. I haven't dated them.
No.
But one of our personal favourites, and one that I don't know if we bought it or we've recommended people to buy it quite a lot.
Yes.
Our friends who weren't particularly gamers, we've introduced them to it.
Yeah.
Is the Mind and the Mind Extreme. Now, for anybody who hasn't played the Mind or the Mind Extreme, For the mind, you have cards numbered from 1 to about 100.
It's 1 to 100, yeah.
And you deal out one card to everybody, and then players have to place their cards in ascending order, but obviously you don't know what other people have got.
Yeah.
So you have to try and work out when to place your card and when to hold back. So if you've got a 99, you're just going to sit and not put it down. And if you've got a 1, you're going to try and play it straight away.
Yeah.
Which is fine until the second level you get
2 cards. Each.
2 cards, then 3 cards, then 4 cards.
Yeah.
And it gets harder and harder to try and...
Yeah, it does. The way I explain it to people at the cafe is that it's the easiest game in the world because all you have to do is play numbers in ascending order. But the one little thing is there's no communication, which means you can't speak to each other, you can't acknowledge each other, you can't do subtle winks or subtle gestures when you're trying to play these cards in order, and that's the big crux of the game, is that everything has to be done in almost silence.
We've had games where we've all, first of all, we've had games where we just play over and over again until we get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
We've had games where we're all in sync and we're doing really well. And we've had games where we can't even get past the first level because people keep putting cards down in the wrong order. Yeah. And it's incredibly frustrating, but also incredibly funny.
Yeah, because the only information you know is that you either have 1 to 100, you have 100 cards, you have 1 to 100, that's it.
You get used to people's tells though, don't you? So if somebody's put their card down on the table and has put their hands underneath, where they're sitting, that they mean business and they're not going to put their card down for quite a while. And
yeah, that's it.
Some people start counting in their heads to try to work out where to go. And then we've got the mind extreme, which is just, as it says on the tin, a much harder version of the mind because you have to put some in ascending order and some in descending order.
Yeah, I don't know whether, it's interesting because I'm not entirely sure how much more difficult it is in a way, because the decks are 1 to 50 on either side. So the margin for error is smaller, but you also know that if you've got a white card and you know that white are going ascending, or you've got a red card, they're going descending, and you can see what's being played on the table, you can gauge your margin a little bit better.
I think it's harder though, because having 1 to 50, the numbers are more likely to be closer together.
Yeah.
1 to 100, you might have 99 and 2, but 1 to 50, you might have 35 and 36.
What also makes the mind extreme more difficult is there are some rounds you have to play blind, so you have to play the cards face down. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of not even any real way of knowing until you get to that round as to whether. But yeah, the mind extreme doesn't come out as much as the mind. I think people do tend to get a little bit more frustrated with it because it's so much more difficult. But it's surprising how far you can get through it, though.
I think, I don't know, was our top score 10 or 11?
I think we've done it 2-player, but then in 2-player it's easier because there's less... 2-player mind isn't
But
ideal.
They do have... He has brought out Mind Soulmates, which we have not yet tried.
No.
Is that the 2-player version?
No, because you need 3-player minimum. Because someone has information. There's a seer that has actual true information or something about what's in the deck, so they know something.
Oh, interesting.
So it sounds interesting. It sounds like they've had a werewolf mix in there with someone who has information or can give information, which is a nice little touch.
And then another game that we played quite a lot over lockdown.
Yeah.
And we've played quite a lot with our family.
Yep.
And I know that some people who went to CadenCon played this game.
Yes.
It is Wavelength, which is another completely different game. It's like a party game. You have a dial, like a half moon shape, where it will point to a place on the half moon shape, and then you have 2 statements like good and bad, and you have to try and give a clue to the team as to where the
arrow should
arrow
point.
is pointing between the half moon.
Yeah.
And that's always really good fun.
Yeah, it's a good because it feels like it gives you that feeling of like a trivia style game, but without any it's not your trivia knowledge isn't necessary, but it just feels that kind of you don't have anyone it's not based on intelligence, so it's all based on luck and kind of guessing what they might mean. You do have to know people a bit because
I remember having one where it was about a toothpaste holder.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It was hygienic or not hygienic.
And I was like, well, the toothbrush holder sometimes at the bottom is unhygienic.
Yeah.
And then the people we were playing with actually thought it was hygienic because it was stopping them from just being, on the side getting manky. So it really tells you a lot about the people that you play with.
Yeah, it does. It's a lot of interesting choices.
Party game.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that we've played, apart from Quacks the Duel, which we'll talk about later. Some other games that we haven't played that are also by Wolfgang Warsch are Blue Banana, Bricks, Dream Team, Fuji, Illusion, On a Scale of 1 to T-Rex. That sounds fun. Then you've got the expansions for Quacks, which is Alchemists and Herb Witches. I don't know what they add to the game.
One of them adds an extra bottle next to the cauldron, and then something over the top of the cauldron as well.
The same game, Shadow Master and Subtext. But just from looking at the BGG listing, they're all very different games. It doesn't have one type of game that he makes, so that makes him automatically interesting to me because you get a lot of variety with this kind of thing.
I've not played of the ones we've played, or I've not played a bad one yet. So that's always a good sign. And if you want to play any of these Wolfgang Warsch games, then why not head to our friends over at Rent, Shuffle and Roll. If you head to www.rentshuffleandroll.co.uk and use the code GITG50, that's GITG50, you can get your first month off, 50% off their monthly service. Sorry about that.
And you can try all of those Wolfgang
Yeah, you can try all of them games, stick them on the list, give them a try. So
maybe you could try some of the ones that we haven't tried yet.
Yeah, and let us know how they are. Cool. So we have got a pre-release copy. It's due out in May of Quacks of Quedlingburg, the Duel, which is the 2-player variant for the Quacks of Quedlingburg.
So in German, it's called Die Quacksalber von Quedlingburg das Duel.
I like it.
Because when I had to load it up onto the stats, that's how it comes up.
I like that name
Die
more.
Quacksalber.
Everything sounds better in German.
It probably isn't how you say it. And
no.
A German person or an Austrian person may say that's not how you say it.
Exactly that. So, in the Quacks Quedlingburg's The Duel, you are 2 merchants, quack doctors, vying for patients to come from the market to your stall, so you can become the guild master of Quedlingburg. So you're trying to coax the patients. So you have this board in the centre with is it 12? It's 11. It's 11 patients in. And you are basically dragging the patients down to either your market or your opponent's market by pulling chits out of bags, putting them in the neck of the bottle. When you put them in the neck of the bottle, you gain the benefit of the chits, and then they drip down into the belly of the bottle. So at the end of round, you get some benefits later. You also start putting white chips, snowberries, into the bottom of your bottle, and evidently that's where your bottle can explode. And if you explode, you lose half your gold or anything like that. Or you can choose to stop, which obviously finishes your turn.
I think that bottleneck element is quite interesting because you only have 3 spaces to put ingredients that aren't the snowberries. So that's any other colour other than white in the neck of the bottle. And when you get 3, you take those 3 chits, the numbers on the chips.
That's it.
Chips or chits? I don't know.
Either or,
chips.
Yep.
You take the numbers and the last snowberry that you placed in there, and that is how you know how many places to move the patient towards your market.
Absolutely.
So it's quite nice because once you've pulled 3, you stop and then it's the other person's turn. So it's not like your turn would take forever.
No.
You know that you can only pull so many chips out of the bag before it's going to be my turn.
Yeah, because in big Quacks is big brother. In big Quacks, it's all simultaneous play. So I'm pulling chits out, you're pulling chits out. You have that kind of honesty kind of policy that you just hope that the other person is not cheating. But you're doing it all simultaneous. With this, you're taking your turn, then the next player's taking their turn, then you take your turn, the next player takes their turn. There's no sitting around or waiting, and it's actually quite fun to watch what the other person's getting out of their bag to see how well they're doing or how far they're pulling their patient away from your market and stuff like that.
But I like that because sometimes there are games where I'm trying to think. We played one just recently where you do everything. Oh, it's After Us. So we played a 6-game version of After Us, and you play these games, and everybody's doing the simultaneous bit at the same time. But you've no idea whether people are. You've got to have that honesty rule, but you've no idea whether people are doing it right or they've made a mistake with the rules, or because you can't see. Whereas I like that it slows it down. You can watch each other, but it's not too onerous.
Yeah, and another thing I really like about it is that kind of swinginess of the patient. The patient's walking towards me, the patient's walking towards you. But at the beginning, the patient's doing 3 or 4 steps either way. He's moving 3 steps to me, he's moving 4 steps to you. Yeah. He's moving 4 steps to me, he's moving 3 steps to you. He's just moving up and down. But the more round you go, the more you upgrade, which is another thing I'll get into, but the more you upgrade your chips or you buy new chips and put them in your bag, that patient is moving so much quicker. And there's nothing more satisfying than him coming all the way to me, even if it was me, coming up to me, he's 1 step away from the market, and then all of a sudden he's gone about 10 steps the other direction. And you're like, oh my God, it's so...
And you can only have 1 patient on the board at a time, so that patient has to resolve where he's going to go, or she's going to go, or they're going to go, before the next patient comes out.
Yeah.
And so it's like winning, who's going to win that patient.
It's really satisfying. And when eventually that patient does go to your market, they go on a board. Your opponent, if you get into your market, you put the patient basically in the guild hall. Your opponent gets a benefit because you serve the patient, and your market steps back 2 spaces. So the catch-up mechanism is really good as well. It feels like
it's always close.
It's always good. The thing as well I find with big Quacks is that it can be punishing, and if you are well behind, you are well behind. Like in 3 or 4 rounds, there is a point where you go, okay, I know who's won this. Now we're just pulling chits out of the bag. Whereas in the Duel, you could be losing 3-1, and then suddenly you've got the right chips in your bag and you're getting the right pulls, and suddenly you're just flying and you're getting loads of patients to your market. Everything's come up peachy.
I like that at the end of the round there are some cards with weighing scales on them, and they've got a bonus. And the person who finishes their potion can choose. There are 3 upgrade tokens and 2 gold. And you can choose how many of those to put on the other side of the weighing scales. Yeah. So but then the opponent gets to choose which bonus they want to have.
Yeah.
So that's quite nice because you're like, well, how much do I give to my opponent, or do I want to tempt them into taking this, but actually I want this? So that's quite nice.
Yeah, I really like the mechanic which is different in this to any others, the upgrading mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use these tiles, or you can use these tokens that you get on the weighing scales, or you can use the benefits that you can get from certain chips to upgrade the number on the tile in the bottle. So if I had a black 3, I can upgrade that to a black 4. A black 1, I can upgrade to a 2, so on and so forth. And that not only changes the amount of patience, but it also changes the amount of gold you're making. So there's ways to make the chips in your bag better without just purely buying chips. So you're still essentially getting the same amount of chips in your bag, but they're just better chips in your bag.
But it's quite interesting because with the black chips, they have to be in your bottle, I think, for you to upgrade them.
Yes, they do.
So you can be in an interesting situation where actually you can't upgrade them because they're in your bag and you haven't pulled them out yet. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. It's a really enjoyable kind of experience. Better than I thought. Honestly, when it was launched and there was a 2-player version, I was like, and I do this with a lot of Duel games.
Do we need it?
Why? Because the Splendor did it. Splendor Duel. I've never tried Splendor Duel personally, but I really like Splendor, and I think Splendor works perfectly at 2. I was of the same opinion as Quacks. Quacks works perfectly at 2. However, this is quicker to set up. You get the same feeling of the random luck, the frustration when it all goes wrong, the joy when it all goes right. It's swingy, but it also is tighter for the score. You never know who's going to win until like that 7th round that you're in. You really don't know. But
we think we don't know because we're not in Wolfgang Warsch's head. But we think that they've taken things that work in Quacks and they've taken things that work in the Dash game.
Quedlingburg Dash, absolutely.
Because there's a bit of a race.
There's the race element. There's the take it in turns element. It's not all simultaneous play. There's upgrading tiles because you upgrade your tomatoes and your carrots and stuff.
And it feels like because there's a dream element in
Dreamweed, in Dash.
In the Dash, which means that you can do something after you get 3. I think that's kind of the potion in the top.
Yes.
Has come. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the Dreamweed is where you stop and you reload your bag up, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas having the 3 that you can drop into the belly of the bowl, it feels like a nice mix that they've used elements and brought them into this. There is also an extra module with it, so you've got not only have you got 4 of each. Every chit has 4 abilities, but there's also the mare.
Oh yeah.
So she sits in the middle and she can give you... There's 2 ways of playing her, and she'll give benefits to your market or the way she moves around the board. So yeah, there's a lot. She
can become an extra patient, can't she?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of variability, lots of different ingredient cards that do different things. So it's never the same game.
No.
And I think I might actually choose to play it over playing the normal one with just 2 people.
Yeah, 100%. I think the big one is quite a long time to set up, and it's fine. But this is just streamlined. It does what it says on the tin.
I think if you've got 4 people, you want to play the well, you have to.
We have to, but
yeah. I can see why you would want to do it simultaneously with more players. But I do like the element of, let me see what you're doing, what you're building up.
Yeah.
What you're taking.
Yeah, I really like it. And there's no downtime because what's happening is quite fun to watch. Like, what's going to happen over there? And the strategy for the game is always in what chips are you going to buy, what chips are you going to upgrade, how are you going to try and make these weighing scales more beneficial to you, or how are you going to try and push them to go a certain way?
We also, we've been trying to do this with more games since PJ visited, but tried to build a story into it. So we were having a bit of fun with the patients. He got to nearly to your market, and then must have smelt the delectable pumpkins in mine and turned the other way. So you can make it more exciting. More entertaining. Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, so definitely, if you are in two minds about it or have thought about it, hopefully we've managed to make you get rid of any worries that you may have had about it. Because I know a lot of people were of the opinion, we like Quacks at 2, why would we bother with this?
It's different, but it works really nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very cool implementation. So that kind of brings us to our end of our episode on Wolfgang Warsch's games and ones we love. And, well, there's none that we don't. So, definitely try them all out. No, absolutely. So, but thank you very much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Please remember to head over to rentshuffleandroll.co.uk if you are in the UK and use the code GITG50 to get 50% off your first month's order. And please leave a 5-star review on your podcatcher of choice or a written review if you're using Apple, iTunes, iPod, podcast thing.
I guess we could say if anybody wants us to look into other designers.
Absolutely. If you've enjoyed this episode specifically based on designers and want to hear more about different designers, feel free to let us know. Mm-hmm. We hopefully soon will probably be doing an episode based with the Rise of Fenris campaign. So if you want us to do a Jamie Stegmaier or Stonemaier Games episode, we'd enjoy to do that, I'm sure. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening, as always. And remember,
get into Wolfgang Warsch.
Quedlingburgs.
Get into the mind.
Get into the mind extreme. And get in...
to my wavelengths.
That's it.
Onto my wavelength.
Thanks, everyone. Remember to get into games.